In this video, we're going to be going through how to do a panorama in Luminar Neo. And sometimes you're out on a beautiful scene, as I was here, which is down at Bruny Island, and it's an incredible vista. You've got these beautiful views, but your lens just isn't wide enough to capture it. So this is where a panorama can really save you and get some incredible shots. But there are some tips and tricks that you should be aware of. I'll start from the very start. As you can see here, I am shooting vertically. I've always found that vertical tends to make better panoramas because you get more of the sky up the top and the foreground. So try and shoot vertical if you can rather than horizontal. You also want about 30% overlap ideally. Sometimes even more is better so that the software knows how to join it. Ideally, if you can shoot using a tripod, you want to try and make sure that your horizon is fairly level, as it sort of is here. And you, as I said, you want to make sure that you've got that overlap. And you will see that the exposure changes a bit. It's always best to try and shoot in manual mode and meter for the brightest part of the scene, just so you don't blow out the highlights. So now I'm going to select all of these images and I'm just going to go into export and I'm going to go into Stitch Panorama in Luminar Neo. Now you could do this straight from Luminar Neo. I'm just using Lightroom and then into Luminar Neo for my workflow. So what it's going to do is it's going to open up all of the images and I'm just going to go continue. Now it can do HDR panoramas, I believe, but in this case, I'm just doing a simple set of single exposures. And what it's going to do is it's going to align the images and it's going to try and find out the points within the photo that match. And basically it's going to then use that to align and kind of join the photos and then create a stitched panorama that you can then edit later on, which is exactly what we have here. So you'll see it's taken all of those individual portraits and it's then created this. So I'm going to go to continue and it's going to give me the option to crop the image. I am going to crop it here. I think that looks nicer. And then we're going to save this image. Now this is going to open it up in Luminar Neo. So we are still in Luminar Neo. And then you can do all the processing that you would usually do to your photos. There are a lot of tools in Luminar Neo that you can use. I'm not going to go through every one of them because there's just too many and this is meant to be a fairly short video. But we might look at things like enhance. I'm just going to go into edit over here. I'll give it a second to load because it is a fairly big panorama. And of course, bear in mind that the bigger the panorama, the more work your computer's going to have to do to process it. So I have this incredible vista now from those multiple images, and I might just make some very basic tweaks. So I might apply some accent, perhaps some sky enhancer. I'll apply some structure, and I could also do some other landscape tools as well. So maybe I want to adjust or change the sky or the water enhancer. Now, I don't think I really need to in this one because the water looks pretty incredible, but there are a lot of options. One thing I hadn't mentioned in the actual tips and tricks is don't use a polarizer or a circular polarizing filter in your images. The reason for that is that as you move through your individual images, you'll find that the polarization changes. And so you'll get dark spots and light spots. It's far easier to process this in here and do the things that you want to do to your photo from here rather than trying to address a circular polarizer that's led to an uneven sky. So I'm just going to go to apply and this is then going to process this and it'll go back into Lightroom where I could then do anything else that I wanted. So just a brief recap, couple of tips: avoid the polarizer, try and meter towards the highlights rather than the shadows so you don't blow out the highlights. Try and use a tripod. Aim for about 30% overlap if you can, and get out and enjoy. As I said, I've done this in Luminar Neo, and it's taken these individual photos and it's turned it into a beautiful panorama. So it's just one of those incredible tools that we have that allows you to get something like this from these individual images. I hope this has been helpful. If you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.